the thing that I started out doing, not even realizing that I was doing it. I was writing really kind of like sappy poetry when I was a teenager, and that eventually transitioned into like a journalism career, but that wasn't something that was planned. So writer, historian is something I've been called lately, documentarian, and storyteller.
How did you get here into your like writing journey?
Let's see if I can keep it short. So I started out, well, the kind of the launch pad for me was interning at Vibe magazine. I interned there like during college. I was studying journalism, did that, and I was also writing and reporting for allhiphop.com, writing like aggregated news posts, and that really prepared me for just being quick, one, and like just writing for the internet and
Ooh, them
blogging.
aggregated posts are not to be
Yeah,
slept on.
it was like, yeah, just like cranking them out. And so that was like a great experience. And also because I was working with like hip hop heads, like Chuck and Greg at All
Yeah.
Hip Hop. The whole staff at Vibe was like, it was nice to be around people who felt as deeply about the music and like the culture as I did. Cause growing up you can feel like like we talk about like songs amongst friends and things like that. We would hang out on the stoop and like, watch videos and things. So it was cool that I could do that as a profession. So I kind of just gradually realized that, and I went to Temple for a year and actually was going to study music business.
Mhm.
So I wanted to be an engineer, like in the studio. Like my thing was I wanted to be like the female guru, like Jay-Z's engineer or go-to. And because I thought it was cool to just like make sounds and kind of be like mix and be responsible for like how the music actually comes out. But that kind of took a back burner the more I got into writing. And I, worked at Vibe, worked my way up to editor. Eventually, I took the like from Vibe, from I started off at Billboard as an editor, went back to Vibe as an editor, and then XXL magazine, and then Jezebel. And so it's just been a
Mhm.
journey of just kind of, documenting hip hop, and R&B and soul, and just kind of documenting Black music. And I think I just didn't like eventually it kind of prepared me for putting out a book about it,
Yeah.
like all that whole journey.
You have shown that there's so many ways to write and to preserve the culture and to be a historian, like you said. So we know the book is here, but you've also been able to write these articles, cover stories, a plural, so many
Yeah,
cover stories, which is like journalism holy ground, right? And
right,
to
right, yeah,
also, I don't know how much, and you can share how much, however much you can, but you also have writer credits with Black is King. So
yeah.
can you talk about the different mediums of your
Hmm.
writing and what that feels like to be able to do that professionally on so many different amazing levels?
Yeah, I love this question because I think people, you do start out thinking you're going to do one thing, and then it kind of, evolves. Like a lot of times, it's like, oh no, I'm also interested in this, or oh, this opportunity comes up, and it's like, I gotta see where that takes me. And so I kind of I've tried to follow that. And so besides the writing, I mean, I kind of always had it in my head. I was like, it would be cool to do like TV writing, producing, like working on some maybe like writing a feature film or something.
Yeah.
And so how it's told, once it's in your head, like there's probably a way in which like you take those steps, or there's a way in which that kind of like ends up happening. Because I've definitely found that to be the case, because I was like, I want to be writing cover stories. And so I was just
Right.
like, you know wound up being in a place where I could do that. So I think it was, the more that I wrote, and kind of like found my voice and kind of like shared my voice. I think just people read it, and I think we underestimate how much people in other mediums read what we're or like see what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because that is what happened with Parkwood and the Black is King work. And um, it's like people are watching and people see the work that we're doing. And I got a call and basically I was not going to turn that down. So, it's
I'd
like
be
a
like, who
right.
is
It's
playing on my phone?
it's it's like and that I'd known that like I'd known Yvette through working on like working with her as a publicist, like in the
Yeah.
business already, like her Yvette, Beyonce's publicist. So it's funny how these things just kind of line up. And so I got the call, and it's a writing opportunity. I had not written that in that way before. I've kind of loosely worked on like I've written a feature like a feature film. Like I have some scripts that I've done.
Right.
And I'm flirting with them. But that was like, the first kind of collaborative film experience. And it was a really, or first like super like professional. And uh I want to be able to kind of like tell those stories in different mediums, whether it's like that or a documentary, or audio,
Yeah.
storytelling. Because I've been thinking about like podcasts and like how I can kind of like enter into that game. So I think once you're like just a creative person, whatever skills you have, you try to kind of just get different things going. And I think it's just a natural way that we work, basically. Like we
Yeah.
just kind of, yeah, want to be curious. It's curiosity, like getting
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
Yeah. And just, I mean, I love the idea of not even knowing that these types of things exist.
Right.
And
Yeah.
yeah, you can put, because when I saw your
You're
name
like,
at the end of that thing, I was like, the Clover, I
yeah.
know, like, what? And then it just
Yeah.
made my mind go like, well, yeah,
Possibilities.
because I
Yeah.
remembered Lemonade and I remembered her using Warshawn's work in that.
Hmm.
And I was like, well, yeah, writers can
Yeah.
write and they can be anywhere.
Right.
Written word has so many ways of evolving and being included in art. So I think that that's just so dope to see. And now it creates for people that follow your career, you're like, oh my God, I could do that. Like I could write for a film. I could write,
Yeah.
for someone like Beyonce who's creating art in different ways.
I
Um,
love that. Yeah.
but no,
The
I do
sunshine is
really
that.
love that idea of
Well,
representing so much within in the medium. Um,
yeah, and I think like when you're younger, like you really don't realize like all these opportunities that can like come about. Like I always just say there's writing on like cereal boxes, there's writing on
copy
like
is
all this
everywhere.
copyright. Yeah, exactly. That influences people and either gets them to buy something or touches them in some way. And like writers just kind of I always felt like writers around the world. So yeah.
Listen, especially because I was told in high school by my guidance counselor, like, you don't want to just like major in something to be a writer. Like, because I was like, oh, I'll
Hmm.
just, go and use English and I'll just like get into literature and different things like that. And she was
Hmm.
like, you're going to need, like, she said, you can major in anything and just write on the side. And so
Right,
she
right, right.
even discouraged me. And I was like, girl,
Hmm.
imagine
Yeah,
all the
yeah.
things that you can do as a writer. But I think everybody's limited thinking that you may or may not get that newspaper or magazine gig. Like
Hmm.
it might not happen for you. And it's like, well, no, now there's so many different ways to show up as a writer. And because of your
Yeah.
vastness of showing up as a writer, I would never ask you, like, what's your favorite thing? Because that's like asking somebody their favorite kid. I get that. But maybe like something that stands out to you the most in what you've been able to do as
Mm.
a writer.
Um, well, maybe a couple things. Because in terms of interviews, um, like a couple that like just really I Erica Badu and Most Stuff, like I did features on them like while back, like years ago. And just uh the being in the presence of like that type of creativity and that kind of like aura of a person that like I think for both of them, like their care with their music, their attention to
Yeah.
detail, and like their kind of just like in some inner quality, some like that comes out when you're in their presence, and that comes out in their music. And it was like I love doing interviews like that, and that those have always been like my favorites, where it's with people who are just like super creative and just have this kind of, I don't know, like inner kind of spark. Um,
Yeah.
but one piece actually that like has always meant a lot to me and stuck with me, it was one of the first things I ever wrote, and it was for this magazine called Mugshot, and it was a free magazine, like indie kind of like hip hop. And I wrote a few pieces for it. Actually, one thing I wrote was a Roxanne Shante profile when she had like her ice cream shop, and that was great. And then also, so that has stuck with me. And then a piece I did for them about this art project called Project in the Projects, and
Mhm.
it was just this idea that I pitched because I had seen that there was this artist, this curator, who was basically like turning like building like apartments in the projects into like art spaces. So he would come in and have a graffiti artist and like just artists like turn these really kind of bland spaces, because they're made to be like bland,
Mhm.
and turn like brighten them. And there was like tape on the floors and like just like color, and they were trying to kind of improve the people who lived in them, improve their
Yeah.
like feeling, improve their environment, which could maybe like kind of improve their way of life or something. And it just like, so I did a profile on like that project, and it was just that is still my favorite, probably like my favorite thing that I've done. Just because it meant a lot to me that I was helping to showcase this like artwork that really was trying to kind of just make people feel better. And so
Right.
I've done like a bunch of things since then, but like that, I don't know, that I just like it every time I kind of, sometimes I go back and read it and I'm like, oh, this is like just a sweet, like a nice sweet story.
Oh, so you look
Yeah.
humble beginnings, Clover says. Humble beginnings.
Right.
No,
Right.
but thank you for sharing those memories too, because it's so great seeing, your progression and knowing it on the level that I know it on, because I'm, connected to you in your career as a journalist. And I've watched you try different things. And I'm curious about your experience in that, because we all deal with imposter
Hmm.
syndrome and things like that. But
Yeah.
going into these various spaces, like there was you did something when you left Jezebel, you went into TV.
I just did a like co-executive produced this art special for YouTube Originals, Black Renaissance.
Yeah.
And so yeah, this is kind of my, I guess, foray into doing more of that. And yeah, I mean, I definitely, when you start something new, it feels like, what am I doing? Or
Yeah, like I'm
what?
wondering about trusting yourself in the new
Yeah,
spaces, even though it's
right.
writing, but it's different.
It's hard because you really have to, it's a lot of experimenting or just kind of being like, okay, I got this. Or
Yeah.
like one thing like I talk about with my therapist is like really just telling yourself like, I've done this before. It just maybe not in this way, but like I've done this before. I've pulled this off before. And that helps to kind of silence some of the like negative thinking. But I mean, I'm very anxious in general, so that I don't think that's ever gonna go away. But
Right.
um I tried to kind of be like, all right, I've done this in a different way. Like and I can just bring those skills into into this. Like I, definitely had uh like imposter syndrome, or kind of like just like am I good enough feelings, like working on Black is King, working on this. I'm just kind of like, it's a whole different world. And so I don't think it went away, but I am kind of learning to embrace the process and just kind of trust
Listen.
that, like you'll get through it. Like it'll be fine.
Right.
Like
That's
all
why
that.
I'm over here
Yeah.
trying to take the notes, sis, because when one can finish a book,
Oh yeah. The
that
book
is
is
the
a whole.
ultimate level of like consistency
Mm,
and diligence, like finishing a
yeah.
book. So talk, because you said, I read your caption about one of your posts and you talked about it being the hardest thing you've ever had to write in
Yeah.
life. I could
Yeah.
imagine it's a lot of stories. So talk about why that's hard. Why was that the hardest experience for you?
Yeah. Because it was, besides being like a writing process, I think it was also like a management process. Like I had to organize um like a lot of thoughts about hip hop and then thoughts about each woman who's like featured in the book. Um and I had to kind of organize, when I would interview someone, it's like, all right, that interview, like I have that transcript, but then I also am speaking to like two other people who worked with them, like two producers. So then I have to figure out like who's the right person to speak to. Like a lot of it was like organizing and managing the actual information that I was getting. And yeah, it was like like 2.5 year process of reporting, researching, writing, rewriting, a ton of rewriting. I rewrite like a crazy person. Like I am, yeah. It's kind of I need to like stop doing like doing it the way I do it, because like it's like I do way too many drafts, and it ends up working out, but it's
Sounds
I
like a lot of writing.
yeah, I'm kind of always in the process of like revising, basically like
Yeah.
revision. So it was it's definitely a lot of discipline and a lot of uh like just trusting that you know what you're saying, or like that your knowledge is worth putting on paper, basically.
Yeah.
Because I did have that. I was kind of like, I like I don't know, I was like, I want to be the person to kind of tell these women's stories, and I just really wanted to just do it in the right way also. Like I just didn't want to like fuck it up, basically.
It's
And
a
yeah.
lot riding
Yeah, because
on.
there's a lot of stories to
Yeah.
juggle, because it is 100 plus women, and it's not obviously like every person doesn't have like a long entry. Some of them are just like a sentence or something, but it's a lot to kind of there's a lot to organize, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I could
but
imagine. And obviously, you have always been attached to music as a writer. So that's an obvious reason why I guess you would go that route with your book. But what what made you decide to even say like this is specifically the umbrella that I want to write under? And
mhm.
how did you also not give up on yourself in the space of doing something so vast?
Yeah. Um, I definitely knew I wanted to write a hip hop book. Like I had kind of that. I mean, I grew up on hip hop magazines, first of all, like Vibe, XXL, The Source. Um, was always kind of like flipping through them, and so I think some of that informed like how I formatted it, and because there's infographics and like little charts and fun like tidbits of information, and but and the illustrations. Um, I think I just like I wanted to basically I met with an editor at Abrams. Like she wanted to do a book on women in hip hop. Like I wanted to do a book on women in hip hop, and I was like, I want to tell a story that hasn't tell a few stories that like haven't been out. Like I just started telling myself how can I add to like this history of hip hop in a way that is like new and not rehashing the same story, basically. Because
Right.
it's very easy to kind of just to like just do cover the same ground, and I wanted to cover women, and I wanted to be like, there were so many that I grew up on, Salt and Peppa, Queen Latifah, like Lil Kim, Foxy, Eve, Trina. Like I was never not listening to women in hip hop.
Right.
And it just felt like a natural fit. Like it felt like the story that I would tell. You know what Toni Morrison said. Like write the book that like you want to read. So it was definitely the book that I would have wanted to read growing up. Like I would have been like a fanatic over this book
Yeah.
if it was out when I was like, 13 or 14 listening to, like all this hip hop, like just getting into hip hop. So
Right.
yeah, I think it was that, like it just natural. It was a very natural kind of decision and fit.
Mm-hmm. And then
Yeah.
as far as like not giving up on yourself or being overwhelmed by
Um,
the task,
oh well that didn't that happened. Like
you're
there
like,
was
well,
yeah, I
how do
definitely
you
got
get past
overwhelmed.
that? I feel
Yeah.
you.
I definitely got overwhelmed. It was like a lot of crying where I was like, I can't do this. I was like, this is too much. Or I would just kind of like, write one entry and be like, oh, I'm not feeling this. Like I don't, and eventually I would kind of put it to the side. Like a lot of the earlier entries were so hard to write because those are all based on their stories.
Mhm.
The women from the 70s, like there's not a whole ton of articles about them or that I can like research and look up. It was all, like their just from those interviews and like whatever I could find. And so those I kind of just kept rewriting. I, was trying to find the best way to tell like this early part of hip hop history
Yeah.
through women. And so those were the points where I was just kind of like overwhelmed and just feeling like I'm trying to tell like an origin story and about this culture and it's difficult. So but I think writing, like we just always kind of have that process, like where we're like, this is not good, but
Right.
I'm either just gonna put it out and like this is like I can't, like we just have to write. So um,
Share
I
it.
think I just got through it through just I don't know. It did actually help to have more time because the release got pushed back a little bit. Corona actually like pushed back the date, so because it was supposed to be earlier, and so some of that helped. Like fortuitously, I guess. Like
Right.
it helped ease kind of some of the okay, like I have a little time to make this more like tighter.
Right.
Yeah.
And now it's out here for all of us to
Tis
consume the mother load. It's
load.
so beautiful, Clover.
Thank you. Yeah, shout out to Rochelle Baker, the illustrator. She's amazing, young artist, and she was just so like I had fallen in love with her like art before like when we started working together. Like I kind of found her and was like, yeah, I want her to do this book because it was like her whole vibe was it was cool and like fresh and also like it really brought out the persona. Like her illustrations bring out the person's persona in this really cool way. So yeah, shout out
Yeah.
to her.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
book is definitely an experience. I know we talk all about the word and this is the pen behind it, but the book definitely also has visuals. It's like it's an experience. And I'm
Yeah.
very excited for you because this is like your baby is out in the world.
Yeah.
Just got out into the world. So how are we feeling?
The first week was definitely kind of overwhelming because I did not realize just like how I was like, okay, well, it's just gonna come out and like whatever. And I kind of really I had to put it I had to kind of like have a period where I was not thinking about it,
Mhm.
like right before it came out, because it was I just had like 2 years of kind of going back and forth between like with my editor and kind of like
Yeah.
on the illustrations and getting it to a point where I felt good about it. And once I felt good, like the final draft like proof that I looked at, I was like, I'm not looking at this. Like I so when you finish something, you're like, I'm so sick of this.
I don't
Like
want to
I
see
cannot
it.
look at another word of this thing. And so once I actually got like the physical copy though, I think that's when it was like it hit me. And I was like, oh, this is I'm like flipping through it, and it's, it is like beautiful and something that like I created out of love. So,
Yeah.
um, sound like a parent, but
I mean,
like
you
it's,
birthed
yeah,
the mother
yeah.
of the motherlode. No, you
Oh, yeah, that's
definitely,
nice.
yeah, you definitely birthed it. But before we get out of here, I want to, I guess, for the women or anyone who's looking
Mhm.
at you, sees this debut, sees what you've been able to do, what kind of like encouragement would you offer them if they got a blinking
Mm.
cursor on the page?
Oh, yeah, that blinking cursor. Well, one thing is like it's okay to walk away from the words for a little bit, or walk away from like whatever thing that you're creating. Like it takes a while to kind of just get something out. Like if you really want it to be, I'm sure you've like had the idea for this show for a while. Like it's in the back of your head, like, I want to do a show, I want to do this. But the thing, things have to fall in place, and then work with the right people, and you finally feel like you can like put it out there, and now you have it. So,
Right.
but it's like it's okay to kind of work on something else as you're trying to kind of create this thing, or um
Mhm.
really slowly kind of like put together the building blocks of it or whatever. And I think basically it's just give yourself a break. Basically, like, take a break. Don't feel like you have to crank something out in one sitting, or that you have
Right.
to kind of get it perfect the first time, because that is what you know like a lot of like the good art that we see is people taking a breath, or like, an
Mm.
artist waiting 5 years to like release their album because they want to take some time with it, so
Right.
um I think it's like okay to just take a break.
It's okay to take a break. I believe
Yeah.
in that ministry.
Right, yeah.
I believe in that. Well, Clover, thank you so much. Congratulations to you
Thank
for
you.
everything, the Motherlode and all that's to come.
Thank you. Yeah, congrats to you too, like on the show, everything, you're just killing it. So yeah.
We doing it, honey. We showing what we can do.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
Trying.
excited to see everything happen for you, Boo. And again,
Thank you.
many, many congratulations, because I know this was not an easy thing, and you did it
Yeah.
with grace.
Yeah, we did it, Joe.
We did
Yeah.
it, Joe.
Real quick with that, yeah. Real with that, yeah.